Hello, and welcome to the 15th episode of the Roundhouse. We're here to recap some of the Olympic action and then give a quick preview for the college season, give you guys kind of some names and teams to watch for. So, we're joined by three excellent panelists tonight. We'll go to Garrett first. What's going on, Garrett?
Not much, man. I just want to give a shout out to Jarrett Felix. Throwing it back, the 2011 XC state title. Man, that was pretty crazy figuring out when North Penn won. And yeah, so thanks for giving me a shout out, man. It's tough having to work here, chained to the computer at E-Train, but I make it through. So that's all I got.
I'm glad to hear that Garrett actually has been getting 3 to 5 minute breaks for food and sleep. So we have let him off the chain a couple times. Just want to let you all
It's a
know
blessing. Yeah.
it is. You cherish those small breaks once you realize how important they can be. Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's hear from Jarrett next.
Yeah, pretty excited to be back on the air. Fox obviously called out NBC's coverage recently on the blog, so I figured I should dress extra nice for this edition just to make sure, because we know NBC's going to be calling us out next. Hashtag number 8.
And good news for Jarrett. I have no female teammates looking over my shoulder tonight to call him ugly. So he's in really good shape. Unfortunately, dressed up on the wrong night. Alex, what's going on?
Well, I've been at school for 2 days now, and between scoffing at freshmen and the emotional breakdowns, I'm already exhausted.
It's a rough life. I have a week of cross camp to enjoy before classes start, so I'm going to cherish that, and then I will be in your shoes in a few short days. Let's get right into things. We'll go right back to Alex. What was the most impressive distance performance of the Olympics for you?
For me, it has to be the women's 10K won by Almaz Ayana. She set the world record by 14 seconds, which was just incredible. And then the way she did it, in just taking control of the race and, having no regard for anybody else in the field except the people that she was lapping. She knew she was the best runner in the world at that point, and she proved it unequivocally. And she really led what I consider to be the best distance race of all time, men's or women's. I think 5 of the 6 fastest times ever were run in that race. I mean, that's pretty unheard of. So I was able to watch that with Jarrett, which was just a treat, and we were both really, really wowed by just how incredible day one of the Olympics track and field began.
Yeah, that really set the tone for what was an incredible Olympics overall on the distance side. And thinking about, I believe that was her second 10K ever. It's just incredible. Garrett, what about you?
So I'd have to go with the 1500 in the women's. I thought that was the most overall impressive race because when you look at it, Dababa was by far the favorite. Hey Jared, stop shaking your head, man. This is my time. But Dababa was by far the favorite. All right, and the fact that you had it was Faith Kipyegon come out and just kick down out of nowhere. I don't think anyone was expecting that. I thought everyone just thought Dababa was going to run away with it. And for her to do that, that was super impressive. So props to her.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the race was over, to be perfectly honest. I started watching Simpson. I ignored the front, and then all of a sudden I heard them say something about Dababa not winning. I was like, what? Jarrett, you just had your first 2 options taken away. I'm sorry, but what are you left with?
So I'm really back on my heels right now. I thought for sure that I would have Ayana, and then I came up with Faith, and I lost that one too. Anyway, going on to my third option, I'm gonna go with Eliud Kipchoge in the marathon. I thought that was a really impressive performance for a guy who's just never had a bad marathon in his career. Basically, seems like a guy who could break the world record sooner rather than later. Was even kind of taunting and trash talking during the race, saying to the guys, "Don't worry, I'm not going yet." At one point during the race, which is just pretty cool to me. And just in an event where there's so much variability to just throw down in a performance like that, that was definitely most impressive for me.
Yeah, that second to last 5K was unreal. So switching gears a little bit, well, not too much, but obviously none of those guys were Americans. What was their best American distance performance of the Olympics? Jared, I'll let you go first and get first dibs on this one.
Nice. All right. I'm going to pick Matthew Centrowitz. I know it's obvious, but it was just such a brilliant race to watch from Centro. We've always known he's like a very smart, tactically sound runner, and this was kind of the perfect race for him to display that ability. I mean, you look at the guys in that field, just about everybody's got a faster PR than him. He got to the front, he controlled the race, and then he closed in about 50 seconds for the last lap. 145, 146 for the last 800, I believe was the splits. And you're talking about a guy whose PR in the 800 is around 144, and plenty of times he'll go to Diamond League meets and run 145, 146, something like that. So pretty crazy to see him close like that, and just first gold medal in the 1500 for the U.S. since 1908, I believe it was. Fox mentioned it in the article, so crazy impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I gotta say, I was pretty sure you were gonna be the one guy to go Clayton Murphy with me. Disappointed, Jarrett. Disappointed. Garrett, what do you have?
I'm here to save the day, Caleb. Don't you worry. Clayton Murphy. I was going to go with him. It's most impressive for a lot of reasons. Why? Because, as Fox said, I believe it was within the matter of a year or 2 years, he went from being third at NCAA's to the third fastest American ever, and also third in the world at the Olympics. That's insane. By the way, he did this when he was 21 years old. By the way, it was his first Olympic experience. And by the way, he also PR'd in the final against the world record holder. That's pretty impressive to me. I thought it was just an amazing performance from him. All 3 rounds, he did what he had to do. So props to him on keeping the American pride going.
Yeah, and we'll get into him and Central a little bit more coming up. But just the way he ran too, completely cool-headed, was unbelievable for a guy his age. Fox, I know you're waiting eagerly. What do you got?
Oh, first I'd just like to say that Mo Farah won the 5K and 10K, and none of us mentioned him as the most impressive performance. That really talks about how exciting this Olympic Games was. But for me, the most impressive American performance has to be Paul Chelimo. I mean, let's look at what he did to get in the position he was in. He wasn't supposed to make the Olympic team. He was not a favorite. He beat Jenkins, he beat Ben True, he beat Ryan Hill to make the team. Then we were all like, okay, good. It's a good story. He's an American soldier. Great. He PRs in the semifinal, wins his semifinal, makes the final. And we're all like, oh, 3 Americans in the final. I wonder what Lagat and Meade can do. And then he PRs by 13 seconds to come in second behind Mo Farah in a really, really fast Olympic final. I mean, if you had told me that Paul Chelimo would run 13:05 and come win second behind Mo Farah at the Olympic Games, I would have laughed at you because it was so ludicrous. I understand that Centro winning gold is incredibly impressive, but he was one of the favorites. Clayton Murphy, he wasn't one of the favorites, but we were all like, okay, he'll make the Olympic team. Maybe he can mix it up in the final. Nobody was talking about Paul Chelimo, and he proved himself to be one of the best stories of the Olympic Games, I think.
Absolutely. I think the Army program started to get noticed a little bit at trials, and then certainly backed it up with their Olympic performances. Both him and Hillary Bohr, big-time performances. What was the most underrated performance of the Olympic Games? Garrett.
This is really tough. I'm gonna have to go with what Fox said earlier. Mo Farah's 5K, 10K double gold, because not only did he do that once, he did it again for his second Olympic Games. I mean, to me, that's just impressive, because if you also look at the women, no women have ever accomplished that. That's something we talked in the group chat, and then we talked about that. But it's just impressive beyond all belief, and for him to do that and pull it off, I don't think people really can appreciate just how monumental that was.
Yeah, definitely. I think it almost felt like a given, so we stopped thinking about how impressive that was. But to do that once is insane. To do it twice is unbelievable. Alex, what do you have?
Well, this is a tough one because I sort of want to go with an American, but I'll wait to talk about that. I think given how NBC covered it, at least here in America, the most underrated performance was Wade Van Niekerk. He was sort of overshadowed by the Usain Bolt farewell tour. I thought that was way overblown. But what Van Niekerk did, running 43:02, I think, just blowing away the world record, blowing away an elite field, and doing it from lane 8 was unbelievable. I mean, we are going to see somebody run sub 43 in the 400, and that's really unbelievable. And the fact that that wasn't the story of the night just blows me away. So I think that has to be the most underrated performance of Rio.
Yeah, that race blew me away, honestly. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Jarrett, last again, but I didn't see any reaction, so maybe your choice is still out there.
Yeah, this time I came out okay. I almost decided to still say Alma Zayana just because that performance was so impressive that it's hard to really, give it full credit. But I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go with Kinselis Kipruto in the steeplechase. We talk about Ezekiel Kempo had been dominant in that event for a long time. Kipruto came into the race. They ran an Olympic record in the steeplechase. He helped push the pace early. I know Jager did a lot of the work in the middle, but he helped push the pace early, then threw down a crazy kick. He was celebrating with over 100 meters to go. He came off the water barrier and started waving to the crowd. I mean, that's a dominant win against an excellent steeplechase field. And I haven't seen a ton of talk about that just because there were so many crazy things during this game. But this is a guy who maybe long-term could even potentially scare the world record in the steeplechase, and not a lot of people talking about it.
Awesome. Good picks all around for sure. And once again, because we're American, we're going to talk about America. Was the most underrated American performance of the Olympics, Garrett?
We could go to Chelimo. We could go to Evan Yeager, or even all the women. But I'm going to have to go with Jared Ward at 6th place overall. I was so happy to see him even make it. So the fact that he got 6th overall, that was a race that many big names were dropping out left and right. The best of the best were getting left behind in the dust. And so for him to get 6th, I don't think anyone saw him getting a top 10 spot. So I thought he was by far the most underrated performer there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Definitely something I probably didn't appreciate enough either. Jarrett, who do you have?
Well, first I'm going to give a quick little shout out to Krauser in the shot put. I mean, that was a crazy performance from him, an Olympic record in the shot put. But since we're distance oriented, I'm distance oriented. I'm going to go with Ben Blankenship in the 1500. A lot of the talk was about Centra. Obviously, he won. A lot of the talk was about Robbie Andrews because he had a somewhat controversial disqualification, even though, unfortunately, I'll admit that he deserved to be disqualified, as sad as it makes me. And, it would have been interesting to see what he could have done in that final. But Blankenship actually made that final. He's a guy who's not quite known for having this, raw speed that somebody like Robbie does. And he really held his own in a stacked final. I think he was 8th or so in the final. And if you look at what his last 800 must have been, it must have been, in the 147 range. And he didn't even have a PR listed on the IAAF website. That's how little he runs the 800, but I'm guessing it's probably around only 148. So he's running an 800 PR in the finals after 2 other 1500s, mixing it up with the best in the world. He's come a long way in the last 2 years.
Definitely, that's another great pick. I don't know why. Something about those guys that don't pander to the media definitely attracts me too. So I'm a big Blankenship fan. Alex, who do you have?
Well, there's a lot of choices that I think we didn't get to that I'd like to recognize. I think Evan Jager running 8:04 under the old Olympic record, in that heat, getting silver, first medal since 1984 was incredible. I think Bernard Lagat running sub 13:10 at 41 years old, even though he didn't medal, is an incredible feat. But Jenny Simpson and Shannon Rowbury in that 1500, we talked about how incredible Kip Yagan was, but Jenny Simpson was right on Zeve Dibaba, who is maybe the best women's middle distance runner of all time. And Shannon Rowbury was right with her. If they had, 100 more meters, this was a full mile, we would have seen, I think, 2 Americans on the medal stand and Dibaba not on it. So what they did was really, really incredible, running behind two of the best women's runners in world history.
Yeah, definitely. Strong mid-distance performance for a woman there, which is always good to see. Another big storyline coming out of Rio was men's distance events. If you scored them like a college meet, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for first through eighth place. The U.S. was the top scoring men's distance team, beating Kenya 54-52. And a lot of times we hear talk about that East African mental barrier. Does the fact that the U.S. beat Kenya and Ethiopia, scoring it this way, is that important? Does that signify an important breakthrough in American distance running? Or is this something that was a one-off event and we shouldn't expect to see it repeated at Worlds and the Olympics in the future? Jarrett, what are your thoughts?
Well, I have mixed emotions about this, as I tend to with all difficult questions, I guess. I tend to pander in the middle. But anyway, it's important to remember that Kenya still won a lot of events. They still won the 800. They still won the marathon. They still, and on the women's side, they won a ton too. They won the steeplechase. But I think the U.S. is really getting there, and I think what's cool is that we have a lot of young talent. I mean, we've done some big things with some of our more veteran presidents, like Rob. Obviously, he's been really critical and kind of breaking through and setting a tone for these younger guys. But we talk about like Clayton Murphy, talk about Boris Barian, who made the final. I mean, that was an incredibly impressive performance for him that's not getting a lot of love because he struggled when he got there. But that was a huge breakthrough just to make the final. We had guys all across the board in all the events. And I think that, maybe if you had one or two fluke medalists, but we had people making the finals, men's and women's side. I know we're focusing more on the men, but we had, finalists in just about every single distance event, people competing for medals in just about every single distance event. I mean, it doesn't seem like a fluke thing because it was across so many different disciplines, and I'm hoping that because of our young core and the tone that everybody set with this performance, that it's just going to build, and maybe we'll get more than one gold medal next year, or next Olympic cycle, I guess I should say.
Yeah, awesome. Garrett, what do you think?
So initially, I was just thinking about this, and I thought, well, it's really just Nike Oregon project. You got Centrowitz getting the gold, you got Rupp with the bronze, Mofar in the 5K, 10K, and I know Mofar is in the Great Britain. But I just thought, well, Nike Oregon project's kind of like the face of the Americans, right? And I thought, well, maybe not. You got Clayton Murphy. You got Paul Trelimo, you got Evan Yager, Bernard Lagat, Jared Ward was 6, and I start putting all these pieces together, and you look at all the different training groups, and it's not like these athletes are just coming from one singular place. They're coming from all around. And if that's not representative of what the Americans can do as a whole, then I don't know what is. And like Jared was saying, we've got so many young guys. Clayton Murphy is 21 years old. The sky's the limit right now. So for us to be in this position, yes, Rupp, he might have to go focus on the marathon if that's just his thing. Evan Yager, he's probably got another Olympics in him. Centrowitz, another Olympics in him. So the future's bright for America. I really don't see a downside right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. We had medalists coming from all over, which was awesome to see. Alex, I know you're always opinionated. What do you have?
Yeah, I think the big, step right now is from the top Americans competing for a medal to, if you're an American in a world championship in an Olympics, you're competing for a medal. I can't think of a distance event we didn't have a finalist in. For the men, we had a top 5 finisher in every event. There was only one event we didn't medal in. That was the 10K, where Rupp was 5th. So I think Alan Webb said, we're making the jump from, okay, let's get to the World Championship, let's get to the final, to we're going to the World Championship and we're competing for a medal, because that's where we were at in every single event, at least on the men's side, and on the women's side in the majority of the events. So the U.S. established itself as a powerhouse, and like we've said, the guys we have coming up through the ranks are really, really exciting. Murphy is younger than I am. I think Centrowitz is only, 26? And then we've got guys like Grant Fisher, Drew Hunter, and maybe even Edward Cheserek waiting in the wings. So, yeah, this is a stepping stone for America to, step up with the big boys, where it's not, oh, it's the East Africans. It's the East Africans and the Americans.
Yeah, that's a huge mental change. That I think you're right. It's a good point. We've started to see that. And you referenced how exciting the youth is. So going right off that, Clayton Murphy, Matt Centrowitz, two names you mentioned, two young rising stars, guys that had huge performances at Rio. If you had to pick one, who would you pick to start building a training group around? Jarrett.
I think I would go with Centro, personally. I think that he's really tactically savvy, which is, a good advantage to have in a training group. He just always seems to be in the right place. And I also think he is going to have a pretty diverse skill set going forward. I think that he's going to end up dabbling in the 5K in the very near future, and I think he's going to be very successful in the 5K as well. He's got great strength. He obviously has great speed. He's so smooth when he runs. I just want to learn how to run as smooth as him somehow. Just like I would love to do that. He just also's got a nice swagger about him. So I think he would inspire some confidence in the rest of my guys. It's like, hey, I have a gold medal. I walk around. I do what I can. I've got swag, and everyone else would just be like, yeah, man, we're gonna follow you, and that's why I pick him.
All right, Jarrett, rock solid on the reasoning as always. Alex, who are you taking?
I would also take Centrowitz, but for a totally different reason. Caleb, you referred to him as a rising star. No, this is an established star. He's a gold medalist. He's a world indoor champion, and he can provide leadership. He's got that know-how where if I'm a runner, it's like, yeah, I want to learn to run like him. And that's not to say that Murphy isn't, very tactically sound. We've seen that. But, Centrowitz has so much experience, and the allure of, running with a gold medalist, there are so few of them. In America, he's the only one, and that opportunity is something that, you just don't get. So if I'm a coach, I'm saying, yeah, run with Matt Centrowitz. And if I'm an athlete, I'm saying, yeah, I'm running with Matt Centrowitz.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He is an established star. So I guess that's the choice here. Take the established star, the rising potential. Garrett, who are you going with?
I'd have to say, I'd have to go with Matt Centrowitz. How could you not go with Matt Centrowitz? I know. Clayton Murphy is my favorite distance runner right now. But I think when you're building a team, Matt Centrowitz is in his prime. And the guys run 3:50 for a mile. And, oh, by the way, just won Olympic gold closing in 50 point. Experienced, has swagger, has trained with some of the best, trained with the best, I should say, and the best coach. There's really no one else quite at his level right now, and he's still got plenty of time to do more damage on in the track and world scene. So Clayton Murphy has an unbelievable ceiling, but if I want a captain on my team to build around, I'm going with Matt Centrowitz.
All right, I just want to point out, Jarrett, we have a new convert to the Clayton Murphy fan club, so slowly but surely we're building. Another big story coming out of Rio was Galen Rupp's quote that maybe he should ditch hockey and pick up golf. Is his career on the track done? Is it time for him to go all in on the marathon, Alex?
This is a hard one because Galen Rupp is somebody, we all grew up watching on the track, and we all have very fond memories of 2012 watching him, finish right behind Mo Farah on the track. But as far as the longevity of his career, I think the marathon is the right choice. It's sort of the pragmatic choice. We've seen how long Meb has lasted, and I'm sorry, we cannot all be Bernard Lagat. I mean, I can't see Galen Rupp running 10Ks into his 40s. So I think the transition to the marathon, racing less, let's remember how much Galen Rupp was racing A couple years ago when he set the world or the American 5K record indoors. He was racing so much indoors and out. If he, makes a transition to the marathon, yeah, the training will be bumped up, but he won't be racing quite as much, and I think that's probably better for his career in the long term. So as sad as I am to say this, Galen should stick to the longer marathon.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Kipchoge looked at him afterwards and said that guy's going to set the world record in the marathon someday. So it's another factor to throw in there. Jarrett, where are you going on this one? You're the only one with marathon experience.
Yeah, and having run the marathon, I know that it can kind of suck, but I think we would all agree that Rupp's future is in the marathon, but I think he should stick out at the track a little bit longer. I think the marathon's just a grueling race, and I mean, I don't know if you need to race it that often because Galen has only run 2 marathons in his life, and it's a win at the Olympic trials and then a bronze medal at the Olympics. So, clearly Salazar knows what he's doing, and I think it would be kind of interesting to see. He builds a base during the fall. He's got to ditch indoors. Indoors, it's too much racing, like Fox was saying. He's got to ditch indoors. But then he, has the build-up during the marathon training, and then he can work on some speed for outdoors, really chase, one last fast season of 5K, 10K times. I mean, this is a guy who's run one of the fastest 10Ks ever. He's running the 26:40s multiple times for 10K. I'm sure he wants to run faster than 12:58 for 5K. All of us, we've done cross country. We've, built a base of mileage, and then we've gone on the track, and some of us run faster than others on the track, like Caleb. But overall, we go and we use that base and we run fast, and I think it would be interesting, to apply that to an elite runner, and I think it could work.
All right, Garrett, your thoughts?
The logic says marathon, but when I look back at that 10K race, I'm thinking that was his, and the reason he did it was because. Okay, I'm not saying he could have won it. I'm saying he could have had a shot to medal, and he didn't. When you're putting in 145-mile weeks, speed is just not a priority at that point. And when you saw him there, 450 to go, 400, he was there. He was with the top 5, and then he got dropped. He had no leg speed. There was nothing else there. As Jared pointed out, this is a guy that's running the 26:40s multiple times. He's one of the has one of the fastest times ever, at least. So I'm not saying he just completely ignores the marathon. I'm saying he pushes it back for now. But I want to see him continue focusing on that 10K. He can still develop speed. There's plenty of time to do that. And when we saw him in that race, I thought he doesn't have enough leg speed, and he hasn't developed it. He's just been focusing on mileage, and maybe that's an unfair assumption, but that's just how I saw it. So 10K.
No, I certainly thought the same thing. I thought if he'd been all in on 10K, 5K, he absolutely has the leg speed to medal in that 10K. Who knows what happens in the 5K? But either way, walked away with a bronze in the marathon, and that's certainly impressive. So we're going to switch gears a bit here, move on to some college preview stuff, and just kind of give you guys ideas on what we should be looking for this season. So, Big 5 conferences: go ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and what am I forgetting? Shoot.
Big 10?
Yeah, Big 10. Sorry. You guys know what they are. Your picks for conference champion in each one. I'll start with Garrett, since he's our college expert.
Are we doing individual or team?
Team, sorry.
Team.
We'll get to individuals later.
Team. So ACC, I think it's pretty clear that it's Syracuse. Who knows? I'm not even gonna try to balance this out because I've got team rankings coming out. But for SEC, I have Arkansas. They had a different number 1 at every meet last year. That's weird. Pac-12, I'm just going to say it's going to be either Stanford or Oregon. I'm not going to give that one away. Big 12, so right now it's up for everyone. but I like Iowa State. You could argue Oklahoma State, either or, but I think Iowa State has got a lot of firepower. They've got a lot of depth. They've got a couple weapons, so look out for them. And then the Big Ten, there's no way Wisconsin can have another collapse like that. I know, but put me on record. Wisconsin cannot have another collapse like that after going 44 straight years to nationals. So they'll be winning the Big Ten. At least I think so, and that's what I've got.
All right, Alex, I know you disagreed with a couple of those. What do you have?
Well, I was like, oh, you're taking the cop out like Jerry, but then I remembered he has his team rankings. So the only ones I'm going to disagree with is the Pac-12. I like Oregon a lot. I actually like them as a title contender. Last year, I think they were second, and this year, they'll have Tanner Anderson, who finished 42nd. I think he'll have a much better finish. Matt Maton, I think, is going to have a breakout season on the grass. I think Levi Tomet is an excellent addition. So even without Drew Hunter, which is a big miss for them, I think Oregon sort of surprises and, contends for the top spot at nationals. And I think they win the conference. And then in the Big 12, I have a bit of a surprise team. I know traditionally it's Oklahoma State, but I don't really buy into their front runner, Sirach Gebrkadani. So I'm going to go with Texas. I like their front guy, Jacob Pickle, and it's not just because his name is Jacob Pickle. He was consistently their number one. I think Alec Rogers was maybe the most underrated freshman in the NCAA last year. He was great across the board. I think that translates into cross-country success, and then they're taking in arguably the best freshman no, they're not. But they have a great freshman named Garrick Bielzak, I think his name is. Or it's pronounced, I know that's his name. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. So that's a pretty good top three, and then they're returning a couple other guys from their top five from last year. So I think Texas is a really good team to watch out for in the Big 12.
All right, Jarrett, who do you have?
So I've got a lot of the similar picks. Syracuse we mentioned. I think Oklahoma State. I'm a believer in their system and their coach. I think they're going to be a powerhouse again. I think the SEC has the potential to be interesting, depending on what Ole Miss can do. Maybe I'm hoping for something big out of them. I don't know. That might be a little ambitious. The Big Ten could potentially be very interesting as well. I mean, we talked about Wisconsin, but I really like, and I'm not saying that these teams are necessarily going to win, but I really like what I've seen from Michigan, and I think Illinois is a potential sleeper, probably a couple years away, but I like their young nucleus. I think they have a chance to grow. And in the Pac-12, Stanford and Oregon, obviously, but it's interesting that nobody mentioned Colorado, and I believe that they're in the Pac-12 also. This is one of the best programs of the last 3 to 5 years. And they still have some pretty good people, including my boy Ben Sorrell, so I'm not going to necessarily count them out.
All right, yeah, that's a great point. Colorado somehow went till the last guy there to get mentioned. Be interesting to see how they do with a largely unproven team, but proven coach moving forward. All right, let's stick with the teams, and real quick, what are your regional champions for each region? Start with Alex. Alex, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So let's start with I think this is the Mountain West region I'm looking at. No, this is just the West region. And I like Oregon, like I said, in this region. I don't really have to repeat myself, but I think, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Stanford is my team. I would love to see them sort of step it up. We obviously have a dynamite 1-2 punch with McGordy and Fisher. And I'd like to see Osberg, have a good year, first year on the grass for Stanford. Maybe Jack Keeland can, fulfill his potential. He ran 13:44 as a freshman, I think. And then somebody like Garrett Sweat, who always runs really fast in the beginning of the season and never really pans out. And then let's not forget about Sam Wharton, who was an All-American 2 years ago. So I like Oregon, but I'm rooting for Stanford and also Elise Cranny. I have to go through all the regions. Right. Okay, the next one is the Southeast region. Oh, God. Men's. Yeah, I actually like Furman in this region. They were fourth last year, and they returned their whole top five. They were all underclassmen. I think Troy Reeder really underperformed there. They've got a couple other guys that I really think will step up. It's not the strongest region. I'm not totally invested in Virginia or Louisville. I think both may lack the depth that I think Furman has. So that's who I like in that region. I have this old, slow computer. Isn't this fun? This one is the mountain region. And I like, this is a tough one. I like Colorado. Like Jarrett said, they're one of the best teams in the country. They've got a lot of young guys in Roca and Klecker and Herrera who are sort of unproven, but today we talked about, a lot of the guys who are young under Mark Wetmore really, really excel. Obviously, Ben Sorrell had a great year as a freshman, so did Dressel last year. So I like Colorado there. This is the South Central. There's a lot of regions to get through. And in this region, I like Texas again. Like I said, I'm not totally buying into Arkansas. I think Texas has a good young nucleus that's going to step up this year. And this is the Mid-Atlantic. I believe this is Villanova's region. Oh, this is, okay, yeah. So this has to be Georgetown region. There's not too many strong teams. I think Princeton has a great recruiting class, and they're sort of a team to watch out for. But Georgetown has the strongest team. Obviously, Jonathan Green as that low stick should be right there with Patrick Tiernan. This is Syracuse's region. I'm not going to go through it. I think Iona's a strong team, but Syracuse will win their region. I think everybody in the world knows that. And the Midwest region, who is we have here? I think I had a surprise team from the Midwest too. Yeah, I was actually going to go with Illinois. Jarrett mentioned how they have this good young nucleus. Jesse Reiser, I think, is really going to step up. I think Zach Snyder is going to be right there with him, and I think Dylan LaFawn will win the region. So, there are the regional winners.
Awesome. Good stuff, Alex. Garrett, real quick, what are the teams we should watch in each region?
All right, I'm going to breeze through this. I'm going to be I'm just going to be the man here. Great Lakes, Wisconsin, and Michigan State. I like Michigan State in that one to go with Wisconsin. We'll see how that goes. Mid-Atlantic, you have Georgetown, Villanova, and Penn. I like the idea that Penn could potentially mix it up with Villanova once more. Midwest, I think it's going to come down to Iowa State and Oklahoma State. Don't be surprised if Iowa State gets an upset. Mountain region, kind of pretty much Colorado's to go for. UTEP and Colorado State will be fighting for it. UTEP only has 5 or 6 guys on their actual roster. Bold move. I don't know why FloTrack ranked them 21st. But Northeast, Iona and Syracuse. Syracuse should run away with it. Iona's still pretty good this year. In the South region, I believe that's going to be Mississippi and Florida State. They typically dominate that. But I'm sure there's probably a team like Auburn or Georgia. Maybe even Tennessee. Someone's maybe going to step up there. We'll see what happens. South Central, that's Arkansas for sure. Texas will probably get into the second outer bid just because it's a weak region. Southeast, really interesting. NC State, Virginia Tech will still be good. Virginia probably the favorite, but Furman has a chance to upset. Louisville will sneak in there as well. We'll see what happens. That's a big, interesting region. I think it's actually kind of underrated. And then the West, you got Colorado. I'm sorry. No, you do not have. Sorry, we don't have Colorado. No, we don't. We have Oregon and Stanford, basically. A couple sleepers, maybe. You've got Portland as a potential, and I really like San Francisco. I'm not saying they're going to do much, but San Francisco, watch out. They've got a couple really low-key guys that could mix it up.
All right, good stuff as always, Garrett, our collegiate expert, and Dons are certainly getting some love early, so we'll see what happens with their season. Jarrett, you disagree with any of this?
Okay, let's see. I wrote down some notes here. So, okay, West, I think Oregon. I think that was said. Southeast, Uh, Fox laughing is really making me laugh. He has to just duck out of the picture. Anyway, Southeast Virginia, South Central Arkansas, South, I said Mississippi earlier, Northeast, Syracuse, Midwest, OK State, Mid-Atlantic, Georgetown, but Penn's going to be interesting. I think that they're going to be a good team this year. Wisconsin, in the Great Lakes, I think that they're going to bounce back. Mountain, I think, is going to be interesting. UTEP, I like their team, but like Garrett said, they don't have a lot of guys. Probably Colorado. BYU, you can never count out BYU. Hopefully I just hit all the regions. If I didn't, that's okay.
All right. Good stuff, guys. That was definitely a little more involved with a question than I anticipated being. So, last question. Opportunity for you guys to get your last points on the table. Full disclosure, Garrett's got a slight lead right now, so take him down, guys. Give me your sleeper individual for each region, and we'll start with Alex.
All right, so obviously I missed a couple of regions back there the last time, but I'll start out west again. I'm really, really high on Colby Gilbert this year. I've talked about it in the chat a lot. I've talked about it, I think, publicly somewhat. If not, here it is. I really like Colby Gilbert this year. Watch for him to be top 5 out west. Next region, I like, oh, Jesus. Where was he? Yeah, Jacob Thompson. I think he can win the region. He's sort of an underrated guy. He really performed well all through the outdoor season last year, had a really good 10K at NCAAs. I think that translates very well. For the Mountain West, I had somebody too. Where'd he go? Oh, yeah, Mike Tate of Southern Utah. Just really solid performances throughout the year. He, didn't have a great race at nationals, but he was 13th in this region. There's a lot of firepower in, UTEP and Colorado State. They have, the great 1-2 punches there. Oh, no, Rotich graduated for UTEP. But there's, those great runners up front, and I think Mike Tate will run with them at regionals. In this region, I talked about Jacob Pickle. He was 5th last year. I like him to win this region. I'm still not buying Arkansas. For this region, Mid-Atlantic, somebody I think who really will step up for Princeton and be their low stick is Jeremy Spezio. I watched him run when he was a high schooler. He's obviously a New Yorker. I think he was only 17th, but he's much better than that. I think he develops freshman to sophomore year. His body adjusts to college in the training. Look for him to make big jumps across the board, not just regionals. In Syracuse's region, I'm not going to even look at the names anymore. I like James Gallons. I know that's a little bit of favoritism, but he's really, really a great runner. I think Cornell's cross-country team has made great strides over the past couple years as I've been here. It's been fun watching them. And I think some of the freshmen for Princeton are also people to watch. They have a 14:30 or a 15:30 guy coming in. Excuse me, not 14:30. In this mid-region, we'll call it, with the guys in Iowa State. I think somebody I talked about, Jesse Reiser, he was only 22nd in the region, but he won Arcadia when he was a senior in high school. I think he should be looking at top 5, if not top 3, as I like Illinois to win this region. Hopefully he can stick with LaFond and mix it up with the big boys. And I know I missed Wisconsin's region. I think the Great Lakes. Somebody who I really like is Malachi. Can't pronounce his last name. I think he bounces back from injuries. He's sort of forgotten because he missed so much love last year, but he should win that region. I don't know if that's a sleeper, but that's what I got.
All right, good stuff, Alex. Jared, I'll let you jump on this next.
Okay. So I don't know if I hit all the regions, but I've been writing down some notes all day, pretty much. So here's a couple of my names that I like. So I got the Campbell guys, Terry and Kipkoech. They had a really strong track season. They could be real contenders in their region. I think Newman from Oregon, I know he's already been a pretty established name, but this is a guy who potentially could, maybe hit a next level type performance and become, a perennial star in that region, especially in the Oregon system. A lot of great training partners. I think Hubbard from Syracuse is going to have a really big year this year. I think he's going to make a jump into elite status. Chris from Indiana, he's on my fantasy team, so got to root for him. Elijah Armstrong, Boise State, super talented guy. He's on Caleb's fantasy team, but I still think he's going to do well. The PSU guys, DeSilvio and Colin Abert, not to play to the hometown crowd, but I think PSU has a sneaky good XC team, and those are two of their best guys. Both have had great seasons. Interested to see Craig Engels from Mississippi. Monster track season that doesn't necessarily translate to the grass, but could potentially just get a lot of momentum and see what happens. And then Farnsworth from BYU, a guy that I really like, and I'm really upset that I didn't get in our fantasy draft. But what are you going to do? Fox got him.
All right, and just a quick note on that. That's going to cost Jared his chance at the win here. I had to drop Elijah Armstrong because he's on his Mormon mission trip. So I blew that one on the draft, and then now I'll turn around and laugh at Jarrett after I got laughed at while we were drafting everyone. Garrett, can you hold the lead? Who do you have?
Let's see what happens. Great Lakes, I like Zach Snyder from Wisconsin. He went to USA Juniors this past spring. Mid-Atlantic, I like Steven Sum of Princeton. I'm going real deep here. I think he was a young guy that proved that he could hang with the best. Midwest region, tough to say. I like Jesse Reiser. I think it's probably the best pick there for a sleeper. Northeast region, anyone from Boston U. They've got a couple really good guys. They show that on the track. South region, I'm going to go with Arsene Gillerol of Samford. He's been up there at a couple meets, and I think this is the time where he's going to get some respect on the national scene. South Central region, I'm going to go with Ilya. I can't even say his name correctly. Ilya Aona. Sorry, but he's from Lamar. He's another guy that I feel like Gillerol will step up. Southeast region, James Dwyer, I believe he returns as well from Clemson. He showed that he could do some solid work in the 10K this past spring. I like him. And to wrap it all up, the West region, Alex Short, I had him as a just miss on the top 50. He's really good. San Francisco, I don't know what it is about it. I just think he's a good leader and that he'll do well.
All right, good stuff from everyone as always tonight, especially on those college ones. That was a lot of detail to get through. As much as I loved some of Fox's sleeper picks, Mike Tate, another name I really like. I have to go with Garrett tonight. Consistently solid, nailed the college stuff, and also had some great Olympic points. So Garrett, the rant is yours. What do you have for us tonight?
I feel like this is like my second or third win, but I won't complain because I'm a winner. Anyways, now I'm gonna talk about Charles Jacques here again, because you know what, we gave him the opportunity. He made the Olympics. We said great for him, and then he went off and he ran 2 1:48s, and we're like, hey man, don't do that again. And then he just didn't show up. He didn't. I mean, when it's on the biggest stage and we give you that opportunity, like I said, like I gave him the opportunity, right? No, but like when you're on the biggest stage, you gotta step up. And it's unfortunate that he didn't make the final, but we look back and we think, could there have been a better option at that third spot in the 800? And I think the answer might have been yeah. So unfortunate, but hey, Charles Jock, I'll forgive you for now.
All right. Yeah, definitely a rough performance for Jock. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's been a good day. Cross-country camps have started all over the place for me. First workout back with the team today. So get out there and get a run in, fellas. Till next time.